Hello and welcome to Data Visualizations, dashboards that simplify your data. We have many attendees today, results users and decision makers from all over North America. We're excited to have everyone here. This webinar will be about 30 minutes, and thank you very much for spending some time with us today. Please chat in where you're from so we can make sure that the chat function is working on our webinar. Appreciate it. And I also want to let you know that you're going to be getting this deck and some other information about results software in your email after this webinar. Today, you're going to see why no one should use an Excel chart ever again. They're time consuming, they lack transparency, and are obsolete. With data visualizations, you're able to get your reporting on your schedule, which significantly reduces your reporting time to value and supports all levels of your organization, making strategic decisions autonomously. Hi, my name is Emmanuel Rose, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Mass Ingenuity. Mass Ingenuity, based in Portland, Oregon, has been helping large and small enterprises capture and implement strategic plans and change management for over 11 years. We have developed amazing software and planning processes to clarify your KPIs, generate the plan, and track the results you need to be successful. Please chat in your questions at any time today about your biggest challenges with data visualizations so we can help satisfy your curiosity. This webinar is for you, and I want to make sure you get your questions answered. Today's presenters are Christine Barker and Jim Clark. Chris is the Result Software Product Manager and has deployed hundreds of dashboards for enterprise, government, and business clients throughout North America. Jim Clark is the VP of Professional Services and has led the strategic planning processes and tracking for complex, multi-site, multi-brand businesses, as well as entrepreneurial organizations seeking to grow. Both Chris and Jim are able to help create data visualizations for even the most complex data, so they speak to you in simple and functional visualizations. I appreciate them taking the time today to help us understand how the correct data visualizations and dashboards will significantly simplify managing projects from strategic plan initiatives to ISO compliance to simple departmental initiatives. Chris and Jim, thank you, and let's get started.
All right, very good. Well, Emmanuel, you mentioned, we've had a very busy week at Mass Ingenuity, a lot going on the client side, but happy to take time out of the schedule to talk about this project because it's certainly extremely important and near and dear to my heart, and I know it is for Chris and many of our clients and colleagues as well. So why use data visualization? Well, I think it's safe to say at some point during all of our careers on this webinar, we've been in a position where we needed to access specific information regarding things like performance, etc. But it's very difficult, if not impossible, to find what we needed, and that's extremely important or frustrating. And then when we do receive that information, it's often buried in complicated spreadsheets that are very difficult to analyze and understand what the data is telling us. So they offer very little value. So data visualization at its core delivers data in the most efficient way possible. It takes raw data, models it, and turns it into information that you can use quickly to form conclusions and make decisions. So it's easier to understand, much quicker to digest, and it highlights the critical information to the people that actually need it. So in doing so, it actually uncovers quickly patterns and trends that also can be acted upon, and these are the insights or the nuggets that we're really looking for when we're using data and data visualizations. So if we think about the current state of most of our organizations, at least many of the ones we work with, data is often managed by data teams or Excel wizards that produce reports for senior leaders and external stakeholders. But this information is typically not available to folks across different levels of the organization. It tends to exist at the top where those resources are available. So think about the benefits of this if this information was actually available to all the people and teams in your organization that needed it in real time. in our experience, if that's the case, the three most important benefits to data visualization are really these: make better decisions faster. I mean, Chris, how many times have we seen this, right? Where we make data available to our teams and they're immediately feeling empowered to make data-informed decisions faster, right? And when and you have that data visualization, Chris works with many of our clients to actually create those. They can rapidly analyze data regarding everything from process performance to business strategies and high priority outcomes in a single glance, in the blink of an eye. And this results obviously in much more rapid understanding of the relationships between the processes and the outcomes and what improvement actions they need to take. So time and time again, we see better decisions faster. Very important. The second most important benefit of data visualization is about seeing the big picture, not getting lost in the data, but being able to see the entire forest. And the ability to see the connections between operations and your overall business performance is super important. And in fact, storytelling, and I think, Chris, you could agree, that storytelling is actually the primary purpose of any dashboard, right? As you're working with our clients, designing dashboards, is what story do you want to tell? What information do you want to see, correct?
Correct.
So visually seeing that bigger picture leads to insights on where your key opportunities are and where your constraints are, because you can visually see by way of a dashboard, like the dashboard of your car, what's happening in real time so you can take immediate action. Very, very powerful. And then lastly, if you can do those things above, the other key benefit is accelerate performance improvement. And this is what we're really all after as business leaders, people that run teams, and individual contributors. How do we get to results quicker? So data visualization summarize lots of complex data and make it available to the leaders and teams actually doing the work or overseeing the work. And so that real-time visibility to highly relevant information accelerates learning and steepens that learning curve and shortens the continuous improvement cycle. That's the key benefit among the key benefits of data visualization. So that being said, Chris, I'll turn it over to you, and you could talk a little bit about, like, where do we get started to start achieving those benefits?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for taking the time, everyone. The rest of the presentation, I'm going to go over some of the kind of tips and tricks that we at Mass Ingenuity have learned with helping our clients get off Excel and really do transparent dashboards that are accessible for all of your teams. I'm going to go through some basic slides, and we're going to then go over 3 case studies. We have some 3 use examples, and we're going to show you some actual dashboards that our clients use to kind of take the principles and move them into action. So here at Mass Ingenuity, we're all about enterprise performance. So when we think of visualizations, we're helping our organizations, our clients, use visualization in that regards. You might also have visualization needs for your external stakeholders, but let's get our internal stuff organized first. Okay, so when we think about our internal organizational performance, it all starts with the preparation. Okay, so before I even get into dashboards, we need to kind of answer some basic questions here. What are the results and the outcomes most important? It all starts there. The visualizations are in service to information. So if your visualization is not grounded in the most critical information, your visualization, there's no use and benefit for your organization. So what are the results and outcome most important? Once you've identified that area of the business, okay, through some outcome lagging indicators, then let's talk about what are the activities and the elements most critical to track in support of those results and outcomes. We are not building visualizations for the sake of building visualizations. They are in service to understanding your performance and the information you need to answer those questions. So it's really critical to get very clear on those 2 questions. It all starts with good preparation. From there, we can then go into the actual visualization and the creative aspects. okay? We still have a little bit more prep to do in our initial design before we can actually move into what chart, what particular type of visualization. When I'm working with my clients, I need to understand the current data state. You have some results, you have outcomes, you kind of understand the metrics, some of the activities, but what's available for our use in our visualization? How often is the data collected? Okay, who needs what information and how often? So you can see doing proper data visualization starts with some good preparation. So once we have some of those answers dialed in, we can go to the fun stuff. And that's all about the design of our visualization. One of the things that we like to kind of think about, as Jim alluded to, right, is about the storytelling. The data visualization is to answer critical questions and to provide the information to make better decisions, right? To make improvements to achieve those results. It all starts there. So one of the things is really choosing the chart that tells the story. Better yet, in our visualizations, we think about it in dashboards. Okay, one of the things is restraint. Let's not tell the whole story on one page. It's information overload, and it becomes overwhelming and almost like clutter. We like to design our dashboards in a series of tabs, possibly 3 to 5 tabs. Thinking about what is the question and what is the answer, what is the information that's needed in a series of tabs that will be in service to your leaders, your middle managers, your frontline teams. Okay. Then we can go into what does that story look like and what are the charts and visualizations that answer those questions. Okay. Designing for comprehension. Tab 1, starting at the highest elevation. Okay, think about an onion, right? And peeling away the layers. Okay, understanding the top level performance. And then looking at the dimensions of the questions that need to be answered. What sort of slicers, right? Different ways of slicing into the information, right? To better understand it. What's the KPI? What's the activity? How does that relate to our strategic goals? Thinking about its information and data, but in service to what? Will provide you more meaningful visualizations. So thinking through that story, designing for the comprehension, then we like to take a step back and remove the clutter, right? What's that noise, right? That just is going to get in the way of your team, your leadership team, your managers, your frontline employee, understanding the information that's there, right? What needs to highlight? What do you need to really elevate? Okay, and where can you help guide that through some conditional formatting, right? Some call outs, right? Thinking about those questions and designing for those questions and what best serves that. Okay, and we think about what did it look like in Excel? And Jim said, we all have those clients, right, that was using Excel. They have KPIs, they do them once a month, right? And then it's on a file on somebody's SharePoint, not done in a chart, or maybe it's done in a chart, but it really doesn't thread that story. So think about the opportunities there. And where in your organization can you use dashboards? So let's take a look at some areas to consider, right? When we think about how do we need to understand our business and where can visualizations help us? Jim and I would argue not just with senior leadership and a strategic plan, right? Think about the operations too, right? Looking at our core work, correlations and relationships, understanding your data, trends over time, the frequency that something happens or does not happen, or the volume potentially, right? Understand what changes you need to make in resource allocation because of the frequency of applications being processed, and looking at the trends. You know, do you have one season? We had one client that does things related to retirements, right? State employees retiring. You know, maybe they have one quarter that they have a spike in their applications for retirement benefits. So understanding those trends will help make you better do better resource allocation. Sometimes your dashboard and your visualizations is just understanding the current state, right? Getting a better handle of what's working and what's not, so you can work on and figure out some opportunities for improvement. And then the last two is identifying areas at risk, right? If you don't manage this tightly, right, then you're going to have an opportunity that could really not go well for your organization. So you're tracking it to maintain a current state. And finally, dashboards are an excellent way to manage your strategic plan deployment. Okay, so thinking about where can visualizations help our organization will really help spur your creativity. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jim, and we're going to go through 3 case studies and walk you through some real life examples to put these principles to life. Jim?
All right, we're going to get into the good stuff. And examples, use cases are a great way to communicate and understand some of the points that we're making today. When you think about enterprise management, little context, there's 2 sides to that. On the one hand, or the one side, is managing the core processes or the fundamental work of the organization that you do every day, your operating processes. And on the other side are the strategic initiatives. So this is, to perform at a high level, you need to do both well. So we're going to start with some dashboards that focus on the strategic initiatives or strategic deployment. I'm going to start with a quick question. And I know I can't see your hands, but how many of you have been on the webinar today have been directly involved in a strategic planning process? Emmanuel, no, yeah, I know you have. Chris, you have many times. I would imagine that most everyone attending this webinar today has been involved in that process. And many organizations that we've worked with, they spend months developing their strategic plans, hashing out the related initiatives, and in fact, they generally do a pretty good job of creating the plan. But in our experience, the most common fail point is deploying or executing those strategic initiatives. There's nothing more frustrating than to not execute well on a great plan. And so the primary challenge, though, is not having visibility to all of the strategic initiatives at one time, who owns them, and what the current status is for all the critical tasks. Because without visibility, we all know that accountability tends to be weak, execution can be inconsistent, small problems can turn into big problems, and we all know where that leads. So a dashboard is extremely valuable in addressing some of those things. So let's take a look at this first dashboard. It's not a lot of eye candy, it's not particularly sexy, but I will say it's highly effective. Let me just quickly walk you through. And this is a real client case example. This simple dashboard here actually shows a lot of information in a very, very short period of time with very, very little clutter. So it's a well-designed dashboard. It shows the organization's 4 strategic goals. It shows the 6 related initiatives and who actually owns them, what the priority is for each of initiatives, because they're not always at the same level of priority, whether it's on plan or behind, active or completed, and if it's off track, it can be identified immediately and visually. So if you look at this, I'm going to give you a moment, which initiative is off track that's currently active that we would want to dig into of these 4? You look at the initiatives themselves. So as you look at this, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, reducing overruns, you'll see that that initiative is in the yellow and it's being monitored, right? So if you're looking at this as a senior leader or team leader, like, oh, it seems like we're in pretty good shape, but on that one, the project status is actually in the yellow. So let's drill.
Yeah, and Jim, I'll call out too, right? That one's in the yellow, although it's ahead of plan. So some questions there, right, related to what are they monitoring? There must be some sort of risk that I want to explore. I also have concerns related to the 2 that are behind schedule, right? And I would want to explore and have some questions answered there. So multi-dimensional ways of spotting risk, as well as just some scheduling constraints that might be going on.
Yeah, great points, Chris. So in a meeting, a management review meeting discussing status, all of that information and the things that Chris pointed out are immediately evident and can be discussed very quickly. And then we want to drill down and say, well, what's happening? And I'm going to use that as an example of the cost overrun on reducing overruns. So very quickly, you can look at the project health metrics at the very top. So this is a data visualization or dashboard that is specific to one of those 6 projects. So it brings up all of that detail. We can see at the top, project health, what is actually, I don't know, we got a couple of metrics in yellow or tasks in yellow, but the one in red is actually budget. So it's like, well, what's actually happening in that area that's causing it to be in red? And if you look in the comments, good data visualization has the ability to provide comments. You can see very quickly that it has to do with additional meeting costs due to COVID-19 restrictions. They were conducting some listening sessions, and the cost of those sessions were increased. So they were very quickly able to identify that that was an issue and take action. So the key outcome was immediately take action to reduce those costs. They applied some technology and reduced the cost, and they were able to apply what they learned to the future meetings that they had on the schedule. So they were able to identify the issue now, proactively control costs before they got out of control, before it ever became a bigger issue downstream. So the takeaway here is this simple visualization served up the right information to the right people who took immediate action and got this project back on track without any surprises. And no one likes surprises when it comes to managing projects like this, major initiative. What else would you add?
Yeah, so let me call out a couple of things, right? Is that sometimes because we're working on enterprise performance management here, right? We're adding the benefit here with using our software as well, is that we're also getting narrative. Oftentimes on dashboards, you might just think about dashboards that are related to the data and charts, right? Here, we are actually threading in the underlying metadata related to it. So thinking about who owns it and their comments that they can feed into the dashboard. The other nice thing about thinking about your dashboard designs is having them be flexible. So if I go back to the first one, as you activate new initiatives, the dashboards can just pick those up. So think about an initiative as really a data point, right, on how many we have active on our strategic plan. A lot of times you might think, well, dashboard is hard, hard metric. How much revenue did we have in? How many applications did we process? Well, in this visualization, the data point is the actual initiatives and us onboarding them and activating them in our strategic plan. And because we have designed this dashboard to remove clutter, to design it for comprehension, the intake of any new live strategic initiatives, they just automatically flow, as well as then once your leadership team or your middle manager team, whatever, learn how to really digest the flow of this. It's a pick list. So the structure of the dashboard will be the same as for the deep dive of every single initiative. So really thinking about being intentional about your design and using these as templates that can then adjust and intake as you bring new items on board.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And the more the users get familiar with the format, the more quickly they can get to the key story that's being told and the actions they need to take. So great points. Okay, so this next one, the first case study we talked about was around strategic plan and involved more of senior leaderships or higher level leaders. The second one focuses on operations, and this is more of a process view important to middle managers and supervisors that are overseeing these processes. And another common challenge is having lots and lots of process measures. We often work with clients where they're saying, we have tons of measures. We just don't have them organized in a way that we can make them make sense. And so they don't have the ability to get them all on a single page and quickly understand the story we talked about. So this dashboard, in very, very short order on a single page, shows 5 core processes for this organization. It's a manufacturing company that must perform at a high level to be successful. And you'll see in the lower left, this represents a total of 112 measures coming from multiple data sources. These data feeds were coming from their ERP system in manufacturing, their CRM system, and their HRIS system for the HR information, all flowing into this single dashboard. Very, very important. And you can see, let's see, what is this telling us? Well, if you just look at we have 5 core processes, 3 of them have measures in red, and as a manufacturing organization, the very, very first core process is producing products. And there, obviously very important to the organization, 35% of the process measures are in red. So that's an immediate, draws your attention, say, let's immediately understand which measures are causing the issue. So that gives us the opportunity to see the big picture very quickly and then drill down. So this slide, number 11, very important. It allows us to see the process measures in total summarized on the left and the detailed look on the right. It's nice information to have all on the same page so that we can very quickly see the composition and where the trouble spots are. So this team was very able to quickly identify what specific work cells, because these measures are being pulled up through their ERP at the work cell level on the factory floor, which cells were causing the problem, and take immediate corrective action involving the shift supervisor before the next shift even started. And they were able to quickly see the big picture, analyze what was happening, get the right people involved, make good decisions, and rapidly make improvement. Now, they didn't address all these in a single day, but they were able to very quickly move into action mode, getting the right people involved at the right work cells causing the problem. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that it's important to note that all of the employees in this particular organization that were involved in these processes and oversaw these work cells had this information in real time through the software application. That's really important, because if you can't see it, you can't manage it. And so this just demonstrates the power of dashboards, because the information was not buried in Excel or in an ERP system or HRIS system. It was actually pulled from multiple data sources, organized in a manner that enabled teams to quickly identify and evaluate their issues, allocate resources, and take action. And in the end, rapidly drive improvement, shorten that improvement cycle. And that's the most important outcome of using data, is to drive improvement and execute at a high level. So talked a lot about dashboards for senior leaders and middle managers, and I think Chris's last example will resonate and really hit home for the frontline folks on the front lines.
Yeah. So if we take the previous dashboard here, right, we might have, the group that's in charge of the on time, any of those measures in red. Well, that's just a snapshot in time. What about taking those measures then, and then serving it up to the team that's behind those measures on this chart, on this visualization, and giving them a team level dashboard? Every team should understand, what does success look like? If you are trying to move your organization to a data mature, that really embraces understanding what does success look like, you need data at all levels. If it's just with senior leaders or a data team analyzing it and not shared and used across all levels of your organization, you will not be as successful and achieve the results you want. So this is a very simple example of a typical team level dashboard. I have one client in Oregon that has at least 20 of these in practice, right? What are the 3 to 6 measure a team? Let them identify what's most important. Put a target line, put a trend line on there, do some call outs on the side, and really engage them on what does success look like, okay? And you'll see, so many of our teams do great work, right? Let them tell their story of how they have, dealt with a roadblock, a challenge, and are really doing great work. Okay.
And Chris, how does this client use this dashboard in their management cycle?
Yeah, so each team is going to be different. So depending upon the previous client, these were daily measures. So they were able to, as a shift came on, take a look at it. They had something very similar to this view. So this particular client, this is a monthly, so doing, beginning of the month, doing a check-in on the previous month, and then kind of setting some targets for the following month. Understanding what sort of, who's on vacation this month, what do they have on the plate, any special projects, right? Looking at the overall picture and what they have ahead of them to inform their priorities going forward.
Nice. Well, just give me 1 second, Chris. We're right at our time, and this is a really good review of the data visualizations. We're going to run slightly over. Totally understand if you got to move on to your next meeting. Rest assured that we're going to get you the content via email, and if you have any questions, you can email Chris directly, and she can set up a time to go over your specific use case. With that in mind, we're going to work to wrap up in the next few minutes here.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. So in the deck, we also put in some additional sample dashboards that really, the ones here are from more of our private sector clients, more of those traditional financial type of dashboards that many find very helpful. Compare year to year, 12-month averages, things of that nature. Whoops, wrong way. Additional ones here, a typical management review, taking your projects, looking at them in a Gantt chart and understanding the schedules there. Okay, and then some additional ones using dashboards to understand kind of progress and action items, doing some forecasting, developing a high-level heat map so you get a quick snapshot there, and understanding, kind of comparing performance. You can do it against product lines, you can do it across teams, shifts, anything of that nature, different geographical areas. So all different opportunities for you to create visualizations. So Emmanuel, on to you to wrap us up.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris and Jim. That was great to see the opportunities there are to visualize data, and that it creates transparency, not just for management, but for the frontline team. It's looks like it's super easy to use, and it gets data that normally would be buried in some kind of data lake, and it brings it out to the front, which is critical for success. So thanks for reviewing that. I want to thank everybody for attending, and like I said, we're gonna get the PDF of this content to you by email, and if you email Chris and ask nicely, she'll send you an ebook about trends in data management for the rest of the year. So I want to thank you for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. Hopefully. Okay, bye-bye.